In today's recipe, we are celebrating, and I am celebrating a dear friend. I am so happy for her and so proud of her. So today we are going to make some old-fashioned chocolate Texas sheet cake. So as you know, with all my recipes, there's going to be a little twist. So we are going to first prepare the twist and then we'll go and prepare the cake. So the twist is we are going to put in some praline, like old-fashioned praline topping with the chocolate icing. So for that we would need some sugar. Here I have just regular granulated raw sugar, some cashews, and 1 tablespoon of butter. Now we have to heat our pan over here, and I am going to first dry roast my cashews. Now if you know this praline that I'm talking about, when we were growing up, there was this ice cream that was called Nutty Crunch, and it was basically a choco bar, like a chocolate bar with vanilla ice cream inside, and it was coated with this crunchy toffee nut, and oh my gosh, like I can never forget that taste, never. And this is the closest that I got to that taste. So we are just going to first dry roast the cashews. It might take 2 to 3 minutes to roast them on medium-high flame. So you can see our nuts are nicely toasted. I'm just going to put them in my container, back in my container, and drop a few maybe. So here is my pan which is already heated. We are going to put a cup of sugar in there. And we are going to wait for the sugar to melt. Now, a very important thing to do right now is not to touch the sugar while it's melting, because otherwise what will happen is you are going to create little crystals in the sugar, and we do not want that. So we are just going to let the sugar on high heat to melt. Sugar has started to melt. You can see we are going to stir in the parts that are melting only, and we are going to let the other parts melt. Okay, now this is completely melted, and into that we are going to put in our butter. As soon as we put in our butter, it will start to froth, and that's what we want. And now we are going to put the heat off. Nicely melted, and into that we are going to add our cashews. I'm going to take it off the heat. Now here I have some parchment paper or butter paper, and we are just going to put in our praline mixture on the butter paper. I'm just going to put these so that it doesn't roll off. Spread it out. It is very hot. Okay, so this is all done. Now we are going to leave that like that for a couple of minutes while we are making our cake. So let's push this away, and let me show you what do we need to make the Texas sheet cake. So while our praline is cooling over there, we are going to prep for our old-fashioned chocolate sheet cake. So what do we need for that? We need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, some good chocolate chips. This is semi-sweet chocolate chip. That's like a cup of chocolate chips. Half a cup of buttermilk. If you do not have buttermilk, you can take half a cup of milk and put a little bit of vinegar, lemon juice, or salt. That gives you buttermilk. 2 large eggs, 1 cup of sugar. Now the recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar, but we are just going to use 1 cup of sugar because we are already using semi-sweet chocolate chips. 1 teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. Good quality unsalted butter, 1 cup, and vanilla. So first we are going to mix our dry ingredients and then we are going to do our wet ingredients. So into my 2 cups of flour, we are going to put in our salt and baking soda and give it a quick whisk so that the baking soda, the salt, and the flour are nicely incorporated. This is all done, so we're going to move this aside. And in my pan, we are going to melt 1 cup of water, the chocolate chips, the buttermilk, sugar, and our butter. So into my pan, I am going to put in my water. That's a cup of water, sugar, our chocolate chips, and last we are going to add in our buttermilk. We are going to wait for this thing to come to a nice boil and so that the heat melts the chocolate chips. Now if you do not have chocolate chips, feel free to use like a bar of chocolate or cocoa powder. If you're using cocoa powder, you're going to use 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Our chocolate has nicely melted. Now we are going to add in our butter. Now make sure to use a good quality butter. You can go with Kerrygold or Land O'Lakes. Right now I have Land O'Lakes, but regularly I would use Kerrygold. My local grocery store did not have the unsalted Kerrygold butter, so Land O'Lakes is good too. So we are going to wait for the butter to melt. While our butter is melting in our chocolate solution, we are going to mix in our eggs with our buttermilk. I'm going to preserve this little paper that has all the butter because we are going to grease our pan. So quickly whisk the egg and the buttermilk. Stir that in. That looks so luscious. So right now we are going to lower the heat or put the heat completely off because the heat from the chocolate and the water will melt the butter, and we need this to cool a little bit before we add the buttermilk and the egg mixture. Otherwise what we will have is chocolate omelet. And we don't want chocolate omelet. I don't know what chocolate omelet would even taste like. It doesn't even sound appetizing. So I'm going to move this from the heat and let it cool. And while this is cooling, we are going to grease our pan. Now, normally you would use aluminum or non-stick sheet pan, but me being me, I always bake when we have parties and stuff, and I leave my pans in everyone's house, and then I completely forget about them, and then when I'm looking for them, I'm like, where's my pan? And by that time I've completely forgotten about them. So today I have a new resolution. From now on, if I'm baking and I'm taking stuff to someone's house, I'm going to use like disposable pans. So I have a disposable sheet pan. We are going to grease that with our butter paper. And I'll show you how to do that. Here is the disposable sheet pan, and they're like really cool. They come with a little cover and all, so you don't have to cover it. So I'm just going to take my butter paper and rub this all over. And they sell it as a sheet pan set. So if you buy one, you get 2, so it's like a pair. You can see it's Using this with grease on all the sides. And we're going to slowly temper the buttermilk and the egg mixture with the chocolate mixture, and then add it to our chocolate mixture. So for that we would need a spoon. I'm just going to use a little tablespoon, and into my, this is called tempering. So what I'm doing is I am bringing the temperature of the milk and the egg to the same temperature as the chocolate mixture, so that when we add it to our chocolate mixture, it doesn't become omelette. So here comes my second twist. We are going to add some instant coffee powder. Now this is regular Nescafe instant coffee powder. We are going to add this to our chocolate mixture. What coffee powder does is it enhances the flavor of the chocolate, and you won't taste any coffee, but it just tastes so much better. Now this is an important part to temper your egg mixture, otherwise trust me, you're going to land up getting scrambled egg. You're going to add little by little and whisk. Not too much. Let us add our vanilla. You guys know by now that I do not measure my vanilla, so do your thing, like pour as much as you want. So into this we are going to put in our flour mixture again, little by little. Again, go slow on this because you don't want to over mix your batter. Now goes in our last bit of flour. I love baking. I find it very therapeutic because all that measuring, mixing, and the smell, it just makes me very calm. Some people don't like baking, but I really enjoy baking. So now this is almost come together. This is all done. Now we are going to pour this in our sheet pan that we have already greased. Oh, that is so cool. It smells so good. So this is all done. You're going to pat that a little bit. You can see there are some little pieces of flour that is not incorporated. We are quickly going to give it a mix so that it's nicely incorporated. Now I don't like to waste any of my batter, so I'm going to scrape my bowl off and put it in there. So this is all done. We're going to pat that. And in it will go into my oven to bake for 20 to 25 minutes or until my toothpick comes out clean. And my oven is already heating at 350 degrees. So while our cake is baking in the oven, we are going to go ahead and prepare our chocolate glaze. Now I have my pan over here. You would need to melt this. So I have my pan over here, which I'm heating up a little bit. And for this we would need some good quality chocolate. Here I have Ghirardelli bittersweet chocolate. 1 cup of softened butter. Again, a very good quality butter always goes the best. Half a cup of whole milk. 1 cup of powdered sugar. Vanilla to taste. And a pinch of coffee powder and a pinch of salt. So my pan is already heated. I am going to first go ahead and put my half a cup of whole milk. Then goes in the butter. Then goes in the butter. And now we are going to put in our chocolate. We're going to put in our salt and our coffee powder later. So we are going to let that melt. It might look like chocolate milk right now, but it's going to melt and become all luscious. Again, if your heat is on high, make sure you put it down because you want the heat to melt, the heat of the milk to melt the chocolate. You don't want to cook it. It's starting to melt. And now we are going to add in our powdered sugar. Again, that's a cup of powdered sugar. Might look gritty right now, but it will all melt and become like luscious and delicious. Gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and put my heat down. This is plenty heat to melt all that. You see, it's so gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I would bathe in that. Okay, in the meantime, my camera went out of charge, so we had to switch cameras. So if you see a little bit of lighting issues, pardon me please. So I'm going to put in my salt and coffee powder in there. That's like a pinch. And then goes in our vanilla. Again, you guys know, we love vanilla. Vanilla is good with everything. So I just eyeball it, but if you want, you can add a teaspoon of vanilla in there. So this is all nicely melted, and we are going to leave it on our gas, which is already switched off, but we are going to leave it on there so that it doesn't become all gritty and hard. So we are going to wait for the cake to finish baking. Our praline is already done and cool, and our glaze is also ready. Okay, so I'm going to show you what happened to our praline. You can see it's all nice and done, and I could just like eat it like that. It's almost like a chicky, and you just break it like so. Just like that. We're going to make it into small pieces, and if you want them like in little pieces, just take a pounder and pound your stress out. We went ahead and pounded our stress out on it, so it's like powder and some chunky pieces. And in the meantime, our cake is already done and completely baked in the oven, so let's go and check that. Leave it. Ooh, that's hot. We are going to leave that to cool. You can see it's all completely done. So we are going to leave that to cool. Our ganache is ready, and our praline is ready. So all we need to do is put that on, put this on, and we are done. So we have separated the big chunky pieces from our praline. Our cake is nice and cooled right now, so it was sitting there for a half an hour to 45 minutes. Our glaze is ready, and we are just going to pour our glaze over our cake. And before we do that, I am going to mix up some of the praline into our glaze. Mix it up. And in it will go on top of our cake. Oh yeah, that is so cool. You spread that out. Be gentle. If you have a flat spatula or an offset spatula for a cake, which I again have lost, use that. Kids love this cake. My kids, I love this cake. That looks so good. And with the big pieces, you can do whatever you want. I am just going to write congratulations or congrats. So here you go. We did not have enough space to write what we wanted to, so we just sprinkled it all over, and it looks good. It tastes yum, so that compensates for not being able to write that. But make it, and do leave me a comment, and please subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. Enjoy an old-fashioned Texas sheet cake with a twist.